to help deal with my anger. I take it out on you.
When do you want me to do the timer?
Yeah.
Why is it not focused? Okay.
Do you mean to do it for 25 minutes?
Yeah.
Or set
well,
a
you
timer
can also just start the timer and
for
can you see us
45?
both in the picture, Megan?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not very focused though.
Let's tap it. Just tap it. Yeah.
Sam needs to scoot in some more.
You can angle it too. Because I generally don't get this close to the clients ever.
Yes.
Are we sure it's recording?
I'm live.
Okay. I've got to scoot back. This is going to freak me out. Can you still see me, Megan?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you still see me?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of broken down.
Okay. Hey, Ryan. Thanks for meeting with me again. How's the last 2 weeks been going?
I guess it's been okay.
It's been okay. Okay. Your voice makes it sound like it's maybe not been okay. Can you give me any more specifics? Anything happening in the last 2 weeks? Good, bad?
I don't know. I mean, Dad's still kind of pissing me off, so I mean, just dealing with that, I guess. And like I don't know, just this shit's cool.
Yeah. So still the struggles, because when we first met, we talked about that. It was like you and Dad getting into it, getting into trouble at school, that kind of stuff. Wanting to probably work towards lowering some of the anger with Dad and at school, right? And
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really try. Like when we talk, you know, I try to just be like, you know, hey, I'm who I am, and you need to treat me with respect, and then I'll treat you with respect. It's something like he needs to do for me if I'm gonna do it for him.
yeah,
So,
that makes sense. So one of your values is for me to give respect. You got to feel like you're getting respect.
yeah, no, yeah.
That makes
Definitely.
total sense. I
Okay.
think that's pretty typical. I think that, you know, it's hard to feel like you want to be respectful when you're feeling disrespected. And so when we first met, what I wanted to gather was some more information about what this anger with Dad looked like, or just in general what your anger looked like. So I asked you to take some notes throughout the past 2 weeks. Any kind of time you have anger, anything you notice about the anger. We talked about maybe figuring out the people that you get angry the most with, or anything that happens beforehand. So were you able to do that?
Yeah, I guess I was.
Okay. Is that the paper in your hand? Can I take a look at that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so like what you just told me was there's been, looks like a lot of fighting, and me or him?
He's out of the camera.
Oh. It looks like there's, you know, like you said, troubles with Dad specifically. It looks like you also got into some trouble at school this first week, and then maybe fighting with a friend the second week. But I'm seeing sort of, you know, when we take this information, we like to look for patterns. And it does look like we're having a lot of troubles with Dad. So that first week, 5 different times, fighting with Dad 5 different times. Can you remember any of those fights, anything specific? Because you wrote down fighting with Dad, but what I'm trying to figure out is there maybe a kind of conversation you guys that leads to arguing, or is there something he asks you to do? Does it happen when you guys spend a lot of time together? That kind of stuff. Can you remember?
Yeah, he just asked me to do like stupid stuff. I mean, stuff that I don't have time to do because I've got school to worry about. I've got things that I need to do or want to do, and better things to do. And I don't have time to do everything around the house, whether it's dealing with the trash or, you know, just taking out the dishes when his lazy ass doesn't even want to do it in the first place. That's the reason he asked me to do it. So I told him I wasn't going to do it. They just basically blew him off. So
Okay, so you're
that
feeling.
was just one time, and then there were other issues that he just continues to like bring up and get in my face about. So.
And so when he asks you to do these things, does he keep asking you even after you tell him that you don't have time to? Does he keep bringing it up?
Yeah.
What ends up leading into a fight?
Well, he asked me to do it like once, and I said, you know, I'll do it when I have time to do it because right now I'm dealing with something. And then he comes at me, and so when he comes at me, he yells at me. How am I supposed to respond? Because I'm not going to put up with that in the circumstances in which I live when I've got other things I need to be doing. So, I and he gets in my face, I'm gonna react.
Okay, so some of the things that you just said to me that I noticed was like coming at you, and so you talked more specifically about yelling and getting in your face. And so at that point, when Dad is yelling and getting in your face, that's when you come back at him.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people tend to get defensive when they feel like, someone's encroaching on their space, or when they feel like they need to protect themselves. And so when someone's acting aggressively, it's pretty typical for people to protect themselves by acting aggressively back. So that was some really good insight that you had there. And then when you guys get into a fight, how long does that typically last, or how does it end? Do you walk away? Does Dad walk away? Obviously you're here now, so at some point it sort of dies down. And so what afterwards happens for it to die down?
Oh, well, it can go anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, where it's just ongoing, and I don't know, I go into one room and he just follows me into there, and then we get into it again. And so in the aftermath, it's just basically he gives up, because he sees that I show him, I'm not gonna do it. He can't make me do it. So I tell him how it is. He pushes back, gets into this, and if things go one way, maybe I'll do it, just to make him back off. But in most cases, we do it and we get into this, and then we just leave each other alone. We figure something else out, I guess.
And so it continues till you feel like he gets the message, like you're not backing down.
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm not.
Yeah. And so that makes sense why that, you continue to fight with him, because it sounds like he'll ask you to do something. As long as you guys fight and you wear him down, he's going to get off your back, right?
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense why you're dealing with a lot of anger with that. It's something you found that is helpful to sort of, deal with your own stress, because it sounds like when he's asking you to do more stuff, it's loading more onto your plate. You have a lot on your plate to begin with. And so you found, hey, we're going to fight it out until he just backs down and leaves me alone. Okay. And so, knowing this, do you think your dad knows any of this information? Is this something you guys have talked about before?
I tell him that every time this, this happens over and over again. So when it does happen, I'm like, it's going to be the same as last time. You're not going to, I'm not going to give in to this. I'm not going to deal with this. You're going to have to deal with it. So, I tell him my part, and then if he wants to just go for it,
So it sounds like
So,
you try and communicate to him. You're trying to give him a heads up, and that respect piece that you talked about doesn't sound like he's listening when you say, hey, this is sort of going to keep going until you leave me alone.
he just doesn't give me a break, ever at all. So, and he does, he does these drugs, maybe I do drugs too, but I think he's got a problem, and I'm not trying to get into that, and I'm not trying to say, but he does these things, and it's they don't help.
Yeah.
And, I'm just trying to stay calm, get away from that.
That sounds like a really tough position to be in as the kid. The kid, I don't think, should ever have to try and calm down the parent, or feel like you have to do different things differently than just being a kid.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you just mentioned his own substance use. Is this a thing that you guys fight about too? Him using drugs, him using alcohol, or is that something you guys avoided as far as talking about?
Well, I know he does it, and I think I just mention it to him, to say you should lay off that stuff, and that's the most I do. I guess it bothers me because I think it leads to problems with him. He has he has bad reactions, and I know that the drugs are probably part of that. For me, that doesn't happen to me, not with what I do. So
when you're using, you don't get angry. typically stay more calm when you're using drugs?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do that to me. I don't think. I mean, he might think different. I mean, he said the same things to me about using stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's a hypocrite because, like, well, he does the same thing, so.
Yeah.
Who's he to judge me over that?
Yeah, and I think that's really hard to be sort of managed by a person, you know, being told what to do when they're doing the exact same thing. And so that is, again, that respect piece coming up. It's hard to respect what he's saying when he's doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so knowing a lot of this information, if you're okay with it, you know, a few sessions down the line, I would like to maybe work with you guys or at least speak with your dad because, you know, today we're going to speak about sort of your role and what you can do, but I also understand as, you know, his kid, there's roles and responsibilities on him to be the parent. And
Right.
so, and we can talk about it a little bit later. It's nothing that we have to, you don't have to agree to it right now, but maybe later on. I just don't want all this pressure on you to have to change your dad because that's not your role. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so it sounds like you've been trying to walk away, you've been trying to give him warnings. Do you feel like if you're able to get some space in your bedroom, if he was not to follow you, do you feel like you'd be able to calm down?
Definitely. He just needs to get the hell away from me when
Yeah.
he gets like that.
And that, I mean, I think that's typical for everybody, right? When you're angry, it's not, you know, you're not in a position to be rational or want to work on things. Very rarely do I ever meet someone that's angry that's able to calm down while staying in the issue.
Right.
So I like your plan where you're walking away. And again, that's where we want to pull dad in to be like, hey, Ryan's got a really solid plan. He can calm down. But again, we talk about roles, responsibilities. Dad needs to come up with his own plan when he gets angry.
Mhm.
So, but today, looking at this information, would you be okay working on your anger and talking about some of the things you can do along with walking away?
If he's gonna do the same, and meet me halfway, then yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to have to deal with this all the time.
Yeah,
It's
it sounds really stressful.
yeah, it's a struggle, and I don't like it. So
So what would you like your relationship with your dad to look like? Because it sounds like he is wanting some help at home. He's asking you to do chores, and then on your end, you're feeling stressed already. So how do we come to a compromise for you two? What would that compromise look like?
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't just ask me to do all the chores. Maybe he like does them with me and like helps me out and makes commitments to do a certain thing if I do something else. Or
That's a good idea.
I mean, we talk about this thing like positive reinforcement. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this and like I'll help out, but what is in it for me at all? Because all I have to come to is like the same shitty situation at home anyway. So
I think you just brought up some really, really great ideas. I mean, I'm sure your dad wouldn't want to go to work and not get paid, right? And so you're hoping maybe we can get a plan established where you could do this and maybe earn something or it benefit you in some way. So while we're working on this, because this is going to be new for everybody, right? And so while we're working on this, we just want to make sure that you have a really good plan to control your anger, and then later down the line, if you're comfortable, I can speak to dad and we can come up with a similar plan for him. And so I hear what you're saying. I definitely want to come to this compromise, but right now, while things are changing and we're doing things differently, we just want to make sure we have like really good safety plans in place. And so, this week 1, week 2, you came up with some really good information. I love that you talked about, you got into a fight with a friend due to a video game. So you identified like that specific person and what it was about. So you're showing some really, really good insight. And so I want to build on that by completing what we call an emotional thermometer. And so the idea behind an emotional thermometer is very rarely do emotions happen on a black and white scale. There's usually different levels to every emotion that we have, right? So sometimes we can feel little joy and sometimes we can feel like really, really big joy. There's some things like chocolate can make you happy, but like getting a new car can make you even happier, right? And so anger is the exact same way.
Yeah.
You've got different levels to your anger, so we want to build some more insight around that and get you walking away or using these skills before it gets out of control. Because when it gets out of control, there's really not a lot going back until, I know the police got involved last time when it got really, really bad between you and Dad. And we just want to avoid that.
Well, and it's like, okay, when I get mad at Dad over that stuff, it's not like the same when I get mad at my friend. Like when I got in a fight with my friend, it's just because he kept being a bitch and team killing me. It's not like Dad telling me to do something and then getting in my face about it.
Exactly.
It's different. Yeah, it's a different level.
Yeah. So even with your friend, sounds like when you guys got into a fight, it didn't get as severe as with Dad.
No, yeah.
So we can use both of those examples, and I'm gonna have you put both of those examples on a scale. So, do you know how a thermometer works?
Yeah.
Okay. Some people don't. I don't know. So we're gonna rate the thermometer. Usually is on like degrees, but we're gonna do levels, and we're gonna do level 1 through 10. And so 10 is gonna be the worst, what your anger looks like at its worst. 1 will be what you look like when you're calm, happy, there's no anger. And so let's use those two situations though, with your friend and your dad. So knowing that 1 is like where you're happy and calm, 10 is where, it's the worst anger that you've ever had, 5 is in the middle. What do you think about that fight you had with your friend? What would you rate it as far as your anger level?
So 1 is like happy, like you're feeling good, there's nothing wrong, all right?
Exactly.
And this is with the friends. I don't know, I guess like a 4.
A 4?
5, 4, 5, I don't know.
Between a 4, and it's never perfect, so we just want to get like some general information. We'll continue to build on this as we get to know your anger a little bit better. So somewhere between a 4 and a 5. What did that look like then? So when you got into this fight with a friend, how long did it last? Did you cuss? Did you get physical? Did you?
Well, it's like I said, he just kept like team killing me, and like he did it over and over. He didn't just do it like once. Like I didn't fly off the handle because he just did it. He kept doing it like over and over again because he wanted to piss me off.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds really annoying.
Yeah.
So you're trying to play, and he's
just not going with it.
seriously.
Yeah, he's messing around like the whole damn time, and I just told him, freaking stop it, dude, because we're not gonna win this game if you keep doing this.
Yeah.
And he just kept doing it over and over, and so I just rage quit and I called, I said some shit to him. I called him some names and stuff. I mean, he was being a bitch, so I did that, and I just stormed out. Like he wanted to start something, but I was just like, I'm done with this.
That's awesome. I think that was really mature of you to leave instead of sort of feed into. It sounds like he was trying to get you worked up, and so you were smart enough to know that and like not give him that kind of power. So you left, but it sounds like, is it fair to say, like your level 5 anger is where you're starting to curse, and at that point
I was mad. I mean, I was really mad.
Yeah, and so that's when you start cursing. Would you start cursing or getting verbally aggressive at a 3, or would it start at the 5 level?
Probably start at the 4 or 5 level.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
And then when do you typically walk away? After you start cursing and getting loud, or do you try and walk away even before that?
No, I'm gonna tell them how I really feel, whoever it is, before I walk away and see where that goes, because at least they know I'm serious.
So you want to feel heard before you leave.
Yes.
So what would the fights with Dad look like? We talked about your friend being a level 5. At that point, you're cursing. You're able to walk away, though. Doesn't get any worse. What about you and Dad?
Well, usually he's the one who does that. I don't really start by yelling at him or get mad because it's something that he wants.
So I guess I can rephrase it as, if somebody doesn't leave you alone, what level do you get to?
10.
10.
Yeah.
So what does a 10 look like? What's the worst anger you've ever had?
10 is when I'm just ready to throw down and do whatever it takes to, like, if I really gotta hurt you to show you what I mean by leave me alone or get out of my face, then I'm gonna do it. Okay. So, and if it means if there's something else I gotta do, I'm not saying what, and it gets to that, God forbid, but like, I don't know. It's man to man at that point.
So is it fair to say at 10, this is where we're physically aggressive?
Yes.
This is when you're just, it sounds like at that point right now, you can sort of see the consequences, but at a level 10, you're just willing to do whatever you need to do. Even if that means there's some really severe consequences.
Yeah.
So moving away from 10 and all the craziness and extremity that comes with 10, let's talk about 1. So this is just where you're calm and happy. How does somebody know on the outside when you're calm and happy? Like if you were to come in here, how would I know that you're in a better mood?
I mean, talking about other stuff or, you know, what I do on a daily basis. I mean, you know, talk about, I guess, what's going good, like with my friends and the
So
girls
maybe
I like in school, I mean, stuff like that.
So maybe your kind of conversation's a little more positive.
Yeah.
A little bit more, you're able to think about other things other than what you're mad about. Are you more talkative when you're happy? Are you quieter when you're happy? Do you want to spend time with people when you're happy, or would you rather be by yourself? Because it looks different for different people, so I don't want to assume.
Well, I want to spend time with people that I like and enjoy being around. Like they have, you know, I enjoy their company, but I mean, I keep it, you know, I've got some good friends that I do, you know, a lot for, but I mean, I don't have like a wide group of friends or anything like that. It's just kind of like, you know, people are gonna treat me right and respect me, then I'm gonna give them that respect back. So I guess like that, you know, I like to hang out with them, but I prefer to just play games with them, maybe go walk around, go to Walmart or something.
So you're up for hanging out.
Yeah.
Like you're in the mood to hang out with
Yeah, I
these
mean,
people.
when I feel like it. So.
What about a 3? So this is halfway between 5 where you said you're cursing and walking away, and 1 where you're positive and you're talking about sort of neutral topics and spending time with your friends. What does that 3 look like? So we're starting to creep up and getting a little bit angrier.
Well, I think that's just when I'm like, you know, annoyed with what's going on. I don't want to do what, you know, they want me to do or is being asked of me. And so that's usually at the point where I say, you know, like maybe, no, I don't want to go do this, or, you know, I'm done with this. It's like, I don't know, it's like getting a bad taste in your mouth, but you can still say like, you can still like reject it.
Like how you describe that. So bad taste in your mouth, but you can still reject that. Like you can still come back from it, right? So you're getting annoyed, but it's not a lost cause at this point. Like if your dad backs away, so you're annoyed, you got a bad taste in your mouth, but as long as your dad sort of respects your space, at that point you're able to go back down to like a 2 or a 1. Okay. And I'm writing all of this down because I want to, after our session, you to take this home, and we may not complete it during session, because again, I talked about how we're going to build on it as you get to know, you know, what your anger looks like. So we're going to develop this as much as possible right now, but it's okay if we don't complete it. So at the 3, we're annoyed. It sounds like you had identified, at this point you're saying no. So somebody's asking you to do something, and maybe if you're at a 1, you could say yes, but if you're already getting annoyed by what they're requesting, you know, if you're telling them no, you're probably already at a 3. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And then, just like we sort of met in the middle from 1 to 5, let's do an 8, a 7 or an 8. So between 5 and 10. We'll say 8. What does an 8 look like for you? So at a 10, just to remind you, you said there's a lot of physical aggression and potentially there's some severe consequences, but you're not thinking about the consequences, you're just acting. So what would an 8 look like?
8 looks like, you know, I'm about to get physical, but just short of that, it's more like, you know, I'm about to do it. So maybe it's like, you know, I issue the threat, like if you keep doing do this again, something's gonna happen, and but maybe it's also like I try to distance myself between it too. Where like, no, it's more like that distance has been broken. So like now here we are, you know, the real aggression is about to start. You know, the beast is gonna come out if like this is like the point of no return if it's crossed.
So when you're hearing yourself giving them that warning, you know you're probably at an 8, and if they don't respect that warning, you feel like you go from like an 8 to a 10 at that point. Is there any sensations in your body to like sort of signal that you're at an 8? So I know verbally you're telling them, hey, something's about to happen, but how do you know like in your body that you're at an 8? Because a lot of like, I work with teenagers, and some of them notice that they'll their face feels hot, or they'll start getting sort of fidgety, they have to walk around or pace, they get tense. Any of those kinds of symptoms resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, my face gets hot, I guess, my ears are like burning, and I feel like my heart rate goes up because it's like just getting me ready to fight.
And that's, I mean, you brought that up, and that, you know, that you make a really valid point. So your heart rate goes up, and your brain's getting that signal like, I'm ready to fight, right? And you just like hit the nail on the head as far as what that looks like in your body regarding what we call a fight or flight mechanism. And so, like you said,
no flight on a fight. No.
Well, I want to give you credit because it does sound like you try and walk away at some point, but maybe not at an 8. At an 8 is, I think, the point where we're about to fight because we're feeling threatened. You know, it sounds like you're feeling threatened. You give out threats, and now our body's starting to work, get itself started to have to counter this threat. And
well, at that point, it's not a fight. So, like, you know, if you know the point, I can diffuse it and try to be like the good guy. I guess, like I can do that, but if I just keep pushing my buttons, then
so you're
it's
able.
gonna happen.
So at an 8, you feel like you would be able to diffuse the situation as long as you got away from that person, or that person stopped threatening you.
If I can stop it before the 8, then maybe, or maybe they back off at 8. I don't know, but that's never happened. I don't think, because they're just gonna keep pushing to, you know, like they're gonna, you know, show me what they're made of or something. I don't know. What
you had said was maybe at an 8 you're not able to walk away, and that's really good knowledge for you. I think we're at that 5, at that 3 probably is easier to walk away because your body hasn't started with the, you know, the heart racing, the face getting hot, sort of all those indicators that our body's getting ready to do the fight response. And I think you are totally correct in saying that you probably have to walk away sooner than that. And that's having this knowledge now. Again, something for you to complete before you come back to see me is maybe filling in some more of these levels as things go on during the week. But what we want to use with these levels is figuring out at which level you need to do a certain coping skill. So we know at 8, it's not logical for us to ask you to walk away, right? At that point, you just feel like, no, you've already hit the fight mechanism. And so at 5, we're walking away. But what I'm seeing is we're also already getting verbally aggressive. And I feel like at that point, I don't know for you, but if someone were to get verbally aggressive with you and try and walk away, what your response would be? Do you feel like you would need to either, you know, get your voice heard and follow them, or would you be okay with them cussing you out and walking away?
I don't know.
Okay. And that's why we're building some of this, just to get you to understand, you know, how you would react. So say your dad cusses at you and then tries to leave the room. Do you feel like you would want your voice to be heard? Do you feel like you'd have to have like the last word, a comment back to him?
Well, I'm gonna say something.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not gonna just do that and just walk away without me not saying anything. I mean, I'm glad, granted, like, he's leaving me alone though, so.
Yeah, so I like that you saw the positive in that. But I think that's realistic to say, you know, somebody gets verbally aggressive. I know for me, it's hard not to defend yourself and be like, whoa, you know, no, you're not going to speak to me like that. I guess what I'm trying to point out is at a 5, if you get verbally aggressive with dad, you know, you cuss him out and then you try and walk away after that, it sounds like that's sort of not working because what you told me is dad follows you into the room, and I'm gonna guess that he's probably following you because he feels like he's just been disrespected. And so similar to you, I'm not gonna be talked to that way, you know, dad wants to get the last word in.
Right.
So what I think, because I really like the idea of you walking away, I think to get away, to calm down, that's really the only course of action, because if we keep you in that area of being angry, you're just going to get angrier, just like anybody would. So what about walking away at like a 3? So before you get verbally aggressive, a 3, you said you're starting to get annoyed, you don't want to do whatever's being asked of you. At that point, do you feel like you can walk away?
Yeah, I mean, I typically like try to, so.
And so when you typically try to walk away at a level 3, is that what happens?
I mean, I guess sometimes I just go, I mean, it's like, it's something I don't want to do, so I'm automatically just like, no, that's not happening, or, you know, no, I don't feel like doing this, so, no, I just go on and do what I want, basically. I mean, if it's not what, obviously I'm asked to be doing something I don't want to do, or something's annoying me, I'm gonna try to get out of that and not pursue it, or pursue what I want to be doing, so. I don't know, it's like, when, you know, my stepmom gets on me about stuff like that too, and like then, you know, she comes in and tries to ask me to do things, and then dad just has to try to like play the enforcer. Like typically with her, all I'll do is that, and then when dad gets involved, it's like it's already elevated, so, but I mean, that's on her too, because she just decides she doesn't want to deal with it, and he gets involved, so.
And at that point, you, like you said, you're already angry. So dad's not even coming to you at a 2. Dad's coming to you probably already at a 4, approaching a 5.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's, I would probably get annoyed if I had so many people probably telling me the same thing, or, you know, if they're not discussing it first, then you just feel like they're both attacking you. 2 against 1 doesn't seem really fair.
No, it's just like they're both like ganging up on me. It's just like, well, there's 2 of you and 1 of me. Why don't you both do it together, whatever it is you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't give a damn. So,
Well, and
God.
that, I mean, that does sound really frustrating. And I like the idea that you had originally said when we started talking was maybe not them doing it together, but maybe you and dad doing it together as a start. And so again, we're gonna get there. I'm not saying that this needs to happen tomorrow, but I just again want you to start monitoring it. So like you just identified, hey, when dad's coming to talk to me, I'm probably not even at a 3 anymore. I got, my stepmom got me to a 3, and now dad's gonna get me to a 5, up until an 8 if he doesn't leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of information I want you to be putting down on this, because that's what's gonna really make this useful and effective. And
Right.
then when you walk away, that in and of itself helps calm you down, but what activity can you do that, what we want to do is sort of distract ourselves while our body's calming down? Is there an activity that's really helpful that you found in the past that you've used, or is there something we can work on to develop and identify something that you can use from here on out?
Well, I guess, I mean, what really chills me out is just smoking out with my friends. I mean, and then I guess playing games.
And smoke. Okay, so realistically, like, let's say you're at home, it's a Tuesday, dad just got home from work. Is it practical or realistic to be able to go smoke with your friends at that point, or is that something like plans that you have to set up in the future? Because I don't want to put a plan down on this paper that you can't use because, say, you know, your friends have to work, or you can't get over to your friend's house or something like that. So that, I like that you identified, you know, having friends around, and we'll talk about the smoking a little bit later, but having them around is helpful to calm down. But I guess what in the home is helpful? You mentioned video games.
Yeah, games. I mean,
Is there any point in time that you get frustrated with video games and could potentially make you more angry? Because I know for me, if I play a game and like I lose or I can't quite make it, it is really frustrating to me.
oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get pissed off, yeah, especially when the game sucks or something. I'm just not it. Typically, like I'm doing good, but maybe my friend's starting to suck, and that just pisses me off. So, I mean,
So sometimes playing video games works, but
Yeah.
we can't really rely on that.
I get pissed off at them too.
Yeah. So we can keep video games in our back pocket, and that can be something we can use. But it sounds like it's not a fail-safe idea. Is there anything else that you've used that you found doesn't make you any more angrier and just instantly calms you down?
I guess like, I don't know, not having to be, at school, obviously, not having like homework to worry about, and the work I have to do. I still like to go out and go to, just I like to get out of the house and just go some places sometimes, just buy what I like to eat when I can, and
I like that. So like
Just, like,
treating yourself a little bit, like a
Yeah.
pick-me-up. So walking around outside, even if you don't necessarily go anywhere, is that helpful to walk and get some fresh air and
it gets me out of the house.
Yeah.
Don't have to deal with dad and everything.
And so, before we agree on that, and again, I can't say what you can and can't do out of the session, I want to talk to dad and stepmom if they would be okay with you maybe taking a brief walk, if that could be something they start allowing you to do, because I really like that idea. It's based in biology where it's what we call regulating activities. And so when you get angry, research has shown that regulating activities, sort of a repetitive motion, is really helpful in calming your system down, because it goes all the way back to when we were infants in our mom's stomachs, sort of that rocking motion. And so when babies are born, they're even soothed by rocking. And so anything that's repetitive, so like walking, even, some of my kids, they rock themselves. They don't have people rock them, but they'll rock themselves, and that's really calming for them. I know it's sort of like sounds sort of funny, but what works
Weird.
works.
Yeah.
So it sounds like walking is something we can use though. And again, I'll talk to them because I don't want you to get in trouble. I want them to know that it was sort of a therapeutic plan that we've come plan together. But I want to get their permission before I say, because I don't want this to backfire and make you more angrier and cause a bigger issue. But we'll start with walking around. How much time do you think you'd need as far as space to calm down? Some people need, 5 minutes. That's not me. I need a little bit longer. What about you?
I need almost to be away from them. I want an hour or something. It feels like it's gonna be a while. I don't know. I need a break before I can even deal with them. So
Okay, so an hour of just space, either walking around or being in your bedroom. And then what do you need it to look like when you come back? So when you come back into the home, what should everyone's sort of roles be, or, what should they know about what you need once you've calmed down?
I guess at that point, maybe now would be a good time to see if I have time to do what they need me to do, but I don't know. It just depends on what it is, because I've got better things to do, and like I said,